This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your host, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Today we have a special guest with us, Eric Upchurch. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
We are super excited to have you on this show today. So just a quick bio on Eric. Eric is an Army Special Operations veteran who grew up in central Iowa before attending college in California. While serving, Eric deployed to combat 5 times and completed a master's degree in Aeronautical Science. He has a passion for educating the military community on how to create long-term wealth through real estate investing. While personally investing across the country for the last 17 years, Eric serves as a co-founder of Active Duty Passive Income, ADPI, and as a senior managing partner with ADPI Capital. Eric, again, thank you so much for joining us. So why don't you share a bit of your military background, how it influenced your decision to pursue real estate investing? Let's start there.
Yeah, great start. Actually, so most military members end up as accidental landlords, and it's because we're paid on time, and we have to move every couple of years.
Yep.
And so really, what struck me when we created our company, was that no one was out there, teaching military members to buy intentionally, and a lot of people were buying intentionally, but they were doing it on their own and trying to figure it out on their own. And so when we created the ADPI platform, we really went like, wow, there's this vast hole in military financial readiness, which really is a service to our country in one aspect, in that financial readiness of our forces, whether they're deployed or if they're a veteran, both ways, it really helps the family household. And so when you go into buying what is oftentimes the most important purchase of your life, your home, whether it be temporary or permanent, if you do it intentionally, you can make it become an asset. And otherwise, and I can give you an example where I started and what made me thinking, but mine was potentially a liability, and I had to figure out a better way to do that. And so, I bought a house in 2006, fully leveraged with a VA loan, like most military members do, and fully leveraged in 2006. So 100% loan to value in 2006. I'll say that a couple times. That is not the best time to buy a house in that condition. But the difference is, again, I was military. I had a job. It was war. We were going to combat all the time. Like, I was not going to lose my job. Yeah. And so my family was living in it. We lived in it for 4 years. And so we made it through the recession unscathed in that property because it was our primary resident. And so that ended up being okay. But when I got out, I was like, okay, well, now it's 2011. I'm like, what are we going to do with this property? If we sell it right now, we'll lose money. And we're talking, it was a $150,000 house in Georgia, new construction, but I was like, if I sell it, I'm going to lose money. So we moved back to California and rented it. And we're like, wow, okay, that makes sense. I see why people can do this. And then I was like, but we're not really making money. It's like $80 a month profit. I wonder if I can do it better. Certainly people are doing this better than me, right? Then you can just imagine, like, once you start researching, the world explodes. Like, wow, there are so many people doing this. I had no idea,
That's
So
awesome.
anyway, a little bit about how I got started in investing.
It's funny you say that story, because we were this past weekend, we were some friends of ours that both of them are veterans, the couple, and we managed their house for years. Yep. And it was the same situation. They just got relocated. I mean, he got deployed several times, and then they make you move, right? They don't want you to get comfortable. So it seems like you guys move and so they rented their house, and they actually did really, really well.
They did. And then they kept referring their friends. So I'm like, yeah, bring them on. Like, they are the best clients to have.
Absolutely.
But thank you for your service. Yeah. First of all, we didn't mention that earlier. But tell us a little bit about maybe some of the challenges though you faced, like maybe individually transitioning from, your military life to civilian role. What was that like for you, and then also apply it to real estate as well?
Yeah, there were a lot of challenges. I mean, number one, I was moving from, I went to school in Southern California where I met my wife. We've been married now 18 years, and
congratulations.
Yes.
And so we relocated from Santa Barbara to Savannah, Georgia, where I spent my whole time in service. And in Savannah, cost of a house is $150,000. I'm a staff sergeant in the Army making, I don't know, like 50 grand a year or something, right? Which is incredible to me. Looking back now, knowing what I know, thinking of how much I and other military members endure for $40,000-$50,000 a year is just crazy. And then I think of police officers, teachers, firefighters, and I have, almost everybody in my family on my dad's side is in law enforcement, and on my wife's side, it's like teachers and stuff. And I'm like, man, people are so underpaid. So anyway, back to the story. I moved back to where my wife was from, which is the San Francisco Bay Area. And so going from a job where I'm making $40,000-$50,000 a year, and then thankfully I had a W-2 to transition to, which my starting salary was like $65,000, I think. And at the time I'm like, that's not going to cut it. I knew straight away you can't live in the Bay Area in 2012 making $65,000 a year. And so, but thankfully I had the VA loan, and I knew that was going to at least get me in. I didn't have any debt because I did follow the Dave Ramsey stuff in 2005 when I started in the military. So I got completely out of debt. But then I was like, well, I haven't saved $100,000 to put down on a $500,000 house, which was the cheapest house you can find in the Bay Area 10 years ago. And, but thankfully I had the VA loan and was able to put zero down and get my feet in. It got in the door. And then, the rest is history on live-in flipping for me. And that was what really changed it all, is putting my head on a swivel, which I learned in the military. You got to figure out what you can do given a certain situation. And, I think that's an advantage that a lot of military members have when introduced to the idea of real estate investing, is they're dynamic thinkers, and they are achievers when given a task or when given an SOP, a standard operating procedure, a checklist, or a well-traveled path, which is real estate. Real estate investing is a well-traveled path. Thousands and thousands of people do it all the time. And so you put a military member in a position where they can do the same thing, and they're enlightened and kind of that aha moment. They are some of the best investors out there because they get it. Right. They just know that they're capable of doing the same things. And so that's what we did. We bought a house, zero down. 2 years later, it was worth $190,000 more than we paid for it. We sold it, no capital gains tax, went to the next house by the beach, bought that one, and did the same thing 3 times in the San Francisco Bay Area, and kind of rode the appreciation and a little bit of forced appreciation wave as well.
That's awesome. So I'm just curious, what did your wife think about this whole real estate investing thing? Was she on board 100% coming in that?
At first, the way it started for me was I hook, line, and sinker. I heard on Sirius, I think it was like an ad, right? Or maybe it was on the radio. It was an ad for a free 90-minute, thing in San Jose, California, and it was like a tax lien seminar for thing. And all it was an upsell. If you pay $2,000, you get to go to the boot camp next weekend, and then you get the tax lien strategy, all this stuff. So I did that. I was like, babe, let me just try this, right? And a lot of men out there listening to this can relate, or women can relate to you being the one who attends the thing, the seminar, the sell, right? And then you go home and you're like, this is going to be awesome. I just heard this thing. You gotta, let me tell you about it. And it's so hard to talk to a spouse or a partner about what you just learned with the same level of enthusiasm that you just had. So anyway, I did that, went to the boot camp, got upsold again there for the $25,000, advanced coaching thing, which ultimately, guys, I am so thankful for. And it was flipping houses in the Bay Area, right? And ultimately, so I couldn't flip houses in the Bay Area, and I hate using the word couldn't. It normally would not do that, but people were paying double, like $2 million for $1 million fire damaged single family house in the Bay Area. So couldn't kind of applies in that scenario. Yeah. So, but what I could do was control my environment while I was at the event. And I knew that. So I intentionally put myself next to people who looked like they were experienced. And I had conversations with them. And I got a lot of contacts from that conference, from that 2-day workshop. And what that ultimately did, I ended up making $250,000 on my next property that we live in, flipped, and forced appreciation, because I met a contractor who did it for free, who did all the work for free for me.
Wow.
And so the power of networking there, while I couldn't do exactly what I went to that conference to do, it got me the next level of education and the next connection to my journey. And so it was awesome. And I'm really glad I did that.
That's funny because you telling that story kind of like reminds me of Shawn and I, because we did the exact same thing. We went to, I think it was Russ Whitney back then, right? Yeah. And so we spent, I don't know, thousands of thousands on his boot camp. But I mean, looking back, I mean, it's what got us where we're at today. So
that's great. I'm all for it. I mean, if you go to those things with intention and figure out a way to make it work and you're committed, it's the 1 to 5% of the people who are there that complain that they don't do anything on Monday.
Right.
They leave the event and they're like, well, I have the 90-day action plan that they gave me for free. And that you don't know how to call. It says first thing on the list, call brokers on Monday morning and tell them you're a real estate investor and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, let me try that. And then the broker laughs you off the phone, it's like, so, but you got to figure out a way to make it work and you got to be consistently showing up and man, that pays off over time. So
awesome.
It does.
So tell us more about active duty passive income and tell us all about that program.
So we are blessed to be an education community. We started the company 6 years ago now and with a Facebook group, and it was just a partner and I, a couple other people who had 20, 40, then 100 people in the Facebook group. And we're just like, again, this was that mindset of like, holy cow, there's other military people that are interested in real estate investing. I had no idea, but let's go find out and let's share our experience. So we were kind of crash test dummy military investors. Let's go figure out what we can do as veterans and military members and see who else is out there. Well, as of recording today, we have 75,000 members.
Wow.
And we have anywhere between an 85 and 90% engagement rate in a community that size.
Wow.
Which is typically you're in the teens on a group that size.
That's
so
amazing.
Highly engaged, private group. And we now have an off-site community in the app called Circle, which allows us to control the community a little bit more thoroughly with less advertisements and just more direct resources for military members. So, but yeah, we've done amazing things. We have a best-selling book called Military House Hacking, teaches people how to buy 1 to 4 units the smart way. And we've been able to influence some amazing organizations and people. We rebuilt the National Association of Realtors. You guys know the Military Relocation Professional, MRP designation?
Yes.
Like at the 3 letters at the end of your name.
Yeah.
So if you're a realtor, you can take a course and get the MRP designation, the Military Relocation Professional. It looks good if you want to help military members. If you're in San Antonio, Military Town, USA, and you have the MRP, it probably looks good, right? Yeah. But we took the course and we were like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't have the right jargon. The pictures are all weird. It's not relatable to military members. So I cold called NAR. And I said, we are the subject matter experts in anything military real estate investing education. Please let us help you revamp that course. And so we were able to influence them. They said, holy cow, you're right. You are the SME in that space. And they allowed us to recreate that for. So anyone now who takes the MRP course, it was influenced heavily by active duty passive income. So
that's awesome.
Really happy to just make that impact. We don't get anything out of that. It's just to be able to make it right. And that's kind of what we base our company off of is like, let's figure out what the military community needs based on our own experiences and knowledge as military members and veterans. And then let's go provide it in a big way. Yeah. And we have the goal of affecting 3 million military families in the next 10 years.
That's amazing.
And I love how you found a need. You took something, the experience you've had and found there's a need out there and then built a business around it. So it's incredible. But what is it only for active and veteran military members?
Yeah, active duty, National Guard, reserves, military spouses, families, and veterans for sure. So kind of encompasses everybody. My mom's in the group. She loves to support military.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
Military
mom's always got to be in the group.
Definitely welcome.
So what kind of like research is it? Training, programming? Are you doing syndications through it? Are you?
Talk a little about the programs that you have or that you offer.
Yeah. we started by writing the book, and that was really just like to get our name out there and to be able to provide something. We give that to anyone who goes to our website, activedutypassiveincome.com. They can download it for free. It is for sale on Amazon, but we made it as cheap as possible because it's not a moneymaker. Anybody who does a book on Amazon knows that it's not. You don't do that for money. You do that to get information out. It's an information push, right? So we started with the book, and then we were like, okay, how about we start building education? We're an education company. And we kind of said, well, if I go back a little bit, what are we, right? Who are we? What are we doing here? And it was education. We were doing things like I bought a couple turnkey properties and I went and educated our community. And I was like, this is what I learned. Here's what to do. Here's what not to do. And then it was like, I invested as an LP in a syndication. Here's what to do. Here's what not to do. So then what are we? We're an education company, and we're going to be loud and proud about it. And we're going to make sure that every military member understands these elements of how to invest in real estate. Because as you guys know, there are so many different ways to invest in real estate, which is it's so dynamic.
Yeah.
Which is what we love about it, right? And you can make money in so many different ways. So now we have the Military Real Estate Investing Academy. It's 100 lessons. It walks you through, I don't know anything, to buying your first 1 to 4 unit deal. Then we have the Military Short-Term Rental Academy, which is kind of self-explanatory, similar structure. And we have the Military Multifamily Academy, which teaches people how to syndicate, how to JV, larger apartment complexes, which is primarily what I do now. And all of those come with cohorts. Military members are very familiar with a cohort class. So class, 2306 Alpha. It's a, like you're part of this group of people. Yeah. Those are your team. Those are the people you're going to meet with every week for 8 weeks. And by the end of it, you're going to understand X, Y, and Z things. And so it's very structured like the military. And our members in the last couple of years have bought over 1.5 billion in assets. Incredible. And so we know that there's a success story there. There's a lot of success stories there, and we get a lot of them via testimony. And so we're just happy that what we've created is now rippled into the military community. And we hear people at military bases saying, oh, you got to go talk about ADP or go to ADPI. And to us, that's crazy that other people are mentioning us without us present, Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Really, and that was the goal. It was just outreach and make sure people understand that they can be whatever they want to be. And they don't have to spend 20 years in the military making $50, $60, $100,000 a year when they can go out and invest in real estate. Even while they serve, they can invest.
Yeah.
And they just need to learn how to do it and do it with intention.
Yep. You're just talking about success stories. Can you share with us? I love hearing stories. Can you share with us a success story?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. So we have some of our members actually are more successful than us. And that's actually, I would say more successful. Like they've purchased more units than us and they're doing more deals than us. And that's, to me, Tom Groves comes to the top of my head. Somebody who's gone out and just bought hundreds and hundreds of units, thousands of units of apartment complexes, because he came in, he showed up, he said, what do you have for me? And he was consistent. He built teams, he figured out the system, and now he's retired Navy. Oh my gosh, he's going to kill me if he hears it. Senior Master Chief or something like that. I'm not great with naval ranks, but anyway, so very experienced guy in the military, did more than 20 years in service, and now he is absolutely crushing it. And he's actually going to be one of our speakers at our conference coming up in San Antonio in a couple weeks. So we're really excited about that. We love sharing those success stories because when your student becomes such a hit and then they go off and then they get to go train and teach more people to do it their way. Oh my gosh. I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's awesome.
I got goosebumps just thinking about it. That's cool. It's awesome.
So tell us some about maybe misconceptions, myths about real estate investing that are, the people that are like say, oh, it can't be done, or like talk to us about some of the people that come into your space and say, that didn't work, or obviously you have testimonies and examples, and you're yourself is an example of a success, but people that talked about overcoming some of those challenges and myths.
Yeah. One of the core talks that we have always in our academies is mindset and goal setting. And you've got to come in with the right attitude. A lot of people will come into like a seminar like that where you're getting sold, and the attitude is kind of defensive because you're waiting for the thing to come where someone's going to ask you to put your credit card down or whatever. And so you got to be aware of that. But then you've got to go, but what's right for me? And does it work for other people? And so I went to, I'll give your listeners an example here. For me personally, I went to my partner, Mark Yan. He's a third generation Ukrainian immigrant, Marine Corps helicopter pilot, served 8 years in the Marine Corps. He and I started the company together, and he was down in San Diego and called me up and said, "Hey, I've been following this guy on social media. His name's Rod Cleef." Mm-hmm. And I had never heard of him before. Right. And I was like, okay. So he goes, "I've got a ticket to his boot camp." This is 2018. "I've got a ticket to his boot camp in LA. I know you're in California. I can't get leave," because he was still active duty at the time. "Can you make it down? I got a ticket for you." "Sure, I'll go." So I went, and I had never, other than my buddy who was syndicating apartments, which I didn't even really know quite what the word syndication was or that people could buy apartments. I went to this boot camp and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, my attitude's going to be right. I'm going to be fixated on what's in front of me and I'm going to just analyze. And it was like drinking through a fire hose. From going, I'd never heard his podcast. I didn't know who he was. I had no knowledge of multifamily investing. So I was sitting there for 3 days, just going literally just flood of information. But I ultimately looked at the panelists and some of the people who seemed to know what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that guy's wearing a hoodie. That guy's wearing board shorts. That guy is wearing a suit. That guy's wearing a t-shirt. They're all on the panel. Sounds pretty cool. Like if these guys can do it, these guys and gals can do it, there is nothing that says that I can't do this. Going through some of the trainings that I've gone through in special operations and getting my master's while leading a group of 27 guys. And man, that was harder than anything I can imagine that these people are doing here, making phone calls and sending emails to the apartment business, right?
Being told no.
Okay, next, And so I took a bold movement. I took one bold step and I knew that I had to do something there to put myself in a position. And I recommend this to anybody. 5 seconds of being bold. So I went up to Rod Cleef at the front of the room and I said, "Hey, my name's Eric Upchurch. I run a company called Active Duty Passive Income. We're writing a book right now. And I'd love for you to write the foreword." And he's like, "I don't know who you are or whatever. But why don't you send me the manuscript? I'll get your information and I'll check it out." So he left that seminar, was traveling with his wife in Italy. He sent me an email and said, "I'm going to write the foreword to your book. I think this is fantastic." And for me at that moment, and now he's a great friend of mine. I've had a great relationship with him over the last 5 years. And from that one bold statement, that one time I stood up and said, "I'm just going to do something crazy. And what do I have to lose? There's no bullets flying here. Right. No one's getting hurt. What could I lose? And he appreciated that I actually stood up, and now I speak on his stage in front of thousands of people every year. And so I would say for anyone who's getting started, you got to have the right attitude about it, that it could work for you. And if you start there, you can certainly have some defensive mechanisms in place because you're going to have imposter syndrome. I still deal with imposter syndrome all the time. But you recognize it because it's part of your biology, part of your chemistry. And then you make a decision to move on. And when you're doing this or any other business or any other venture out there, people are going to tell you one thing, you can't do that, or they're going to think, oh, that's a scam or something skeptical or whatever it is. Make your own decisions. Mm-hmm. Show up with consistency to be 1% better every day, and success will hunt you down. Mm-hmm. But you got to put that foot forward first.
Yeah. We know Rod and his beautiful wife, so they're great people. But I love the way you answer that, and that's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about, and say you got somebody, a veteran or somebody that's active, and what are some that are listening? What are some of the obstacles that for that particular, for them and their situation? What are some of the things that you've seen that are obstacles or challenges that they're going to have to overcome if they want to make a move into investing in real estate or start their real estate? What's some of the things that they're going to have to overcome?
Some obstacles you're going to have to, I mean, there are some travel obstacles that are clear. You're going to have to apply for leave. If you want, like, I always recommend people go to conferences. There are so many conferences and they're all great. There are good people at conferences, especially I think in the multifamily space. I'm a huge fan. There are always people with good intention. And in the multifamily space specifically, you're trying to work together, and who works better together than the military? Nobody. So that, in my opinion, if you're military and you're trying to get into this, multifamily is a great way to start. Now, you don't even have to start in single family unless it's like maybe a fourplex or something. But go with commercial multifamily, because people have to work together in teams to do those larger syndications, and a team works really well together. But other obstacles, other than getting leave, getting time off to do those things, you might be at sea and only have a short window of time to check your email or to make a phone call, whereas somebody in the civilian or veteran side kind of has all day to figure out when they're going to make that phone call or to make time for it. So there are some physical limitations to that if you're deployed, although we have a lot of members. Actually, our largest meetup is Asia Pacific. We have 36 meetups worldwide. And Asia Pacific is killing it buying real estate while they're deployed in Guam, Japan, and all over South Korea. They're buying deals in the U.S. while they're stationed over there. So, if you're military, there are limitations. I'm not going to say there aren't, but we have created many, many avenues for you to get plugged in, including what we call our meetups called ADPI Local. And they do great things. And so you can get connected no matter where you are. In fact, one of my partners, his first deal was a 62 unit in Knoxville, Tennessee, while he was stationed in Japan. Wow. So he'd never seen it before. He found partners because he went to a conference, and actually that's where I met him too, at a conference. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Yep. And you mentioned you had a conference coming up soon. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's ADPI Con, and it is on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, October 27th to the 29th. Nice. It's a 3-day event, and we're going to have residential and multifamily tracks and all kinds of exhibitors and resources and speakers. Hal Elrod is our keynote speaker. Rod Cleef is coming to talk about mindset and goal setting, kind of heading up day one, actually, in the morning. And then Bigger Pockets, Jay Scott is coming to talk about shiny object syndrome. So it's going to be a great event. Looking forward to it.
That's cool.
Eric, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to hear what's your thoughts on the multifamily space right now? Like, what are you seeing? We're closer to it than we are. So, like, what are you seeing? What do you like? Where do you project things are going to happen over the next 6 months? Kind of, I know it's been a little shaky with interest rates.
Sure. Yeah. It's been quite an interesting. I'm so blessed to say that I'm part of this cycle right now, and that I missed the 2008 recession because I was in the military still. And not that I'm interested in pain and suffering. I had my own type of pain and suffering going on back then. But now what I think is going to happen is more pain and suffering for people who are getting pinched. Their loans are getting pinched. I don't think people personally are going to be hurt as much as they were back then, because it's a different market. Absolutely. It's a different kind of ball game. But a lot of loans are coming due. People who are buying things they probably shouldn't have done in the last 5 years. A lot of bridge debt. And so, people who are ready, like myself, are going to be picking up the pieces and glad to help banks out where needed. And because banks don't want to own multifamily properties, they want to lend on them. So we will happily be ready to help banks out and on ultimately helping the sellers, the forced sellers out of a pickle as well. So we'll be interested in that and ready for that. And a lot of people that I work with are ready for that as well. And I think that's the general sentiment for people who are syndicators and we're also doing refis right now, to be honest, which is funny to even think of, but we bought assets that we knew were going to be really strong performers, and getting bridge debt a year ago or 6 months ago, even, we have an asset that we're refinancing in a very short amount of time because we knew it was, we're talking huge delta on rent increase, like $400 a unit. So if it was leaner than that, probably wouldn't have been this case, but this just happened to be a great deal. and we're refinancing it and cutting the debt service in half. And we're actually closing on that one this week. So
sweet.
It is possible. You just have to be scrutinizing a little bit more right now, making sure that you're not buying stuff just to buy stuff. That is something that people who are getting started do a lot. And please don't do that. Please be patient. If you're getting started in this business right now, it might be the best time to actually be getting started ever in the history of in the recent history of the world, because it takes 6 months to learn the language of real estate investing, especially multifamily. Yeah. And as soon as you do, you're going to know the right people. You're going to show up with consistency. Like I've said 4 times already, you're going to know how to talk to brokers and how to talk to partners. So get educated right now and wait, because what's about to come in the next 6 to 12 to 36 months is going to be potentially the greatest transfer of wealth in history. And don't you want to be a part of that? Because I have friends who are now multi-millionaires from buying real estate 10 years ago. I also have a mentor who teaches me everything I know, who lost $50 million in 2008 and built it back. So, there's a lot to be learned out there. And if you're paying attention, you'll come up on the right side of it all.
100%. Eric, if you could start out in your early 20s or go back in your early 20s, what advice would you give yourself?
I was talking to my wife about this recently, actually. I would say, and I have 11 and 14-year-old boys, and so I teach them a lot of this. I've interviewed them on in my group before, and I talk to them about assets and liabilities and good debt and bad debt and all kinds of stuff. And but there's always things that I'm learning, and I think this year has been one of those moments where I've kind of blossomed as an investor, as far as like just internally, I know who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, and a lot of introspection there. But I would say right now, Eric, 20-year-old Eric or whatever it was, like non-recourse debt is fantastic. And then, go research it, Google it, whatever. Yeah. And then I would say pick your partners wisely. They are, and it's funny because the things I'm about to say are things that my mentor told me, because that's what he learned. And then you go out and you do things and you're like, okay, well, I probably could have done that one better. I probably could have done this one better, but that's part of the learning process, and you can tighten it up. And you're going to have good deals and you're going to have bad deals, but the bad deals are the ones where you learn. Exactly. You learn the most because things are stressful, and the way you react is what is going to keep it all together for yourself. So then also don't speculate, know what you're doing. And I'll say this is just a caveat, like example of what I mean. Don't invest in crypto until it's like until you almost want to miss the boat, in my opinion. To be conservative, you want to be that guy who's like, dang it, I missed the boat. But you can still invest in it, and it makes money over time. But when you speculate and you just make sure, if you are speculating in any industry, that you're willing to lose that money. And thankfully I have, wherever I've speculated, it's been, I've been like, okay, I know that money's gone, right?
It's a gamble,
like starting an Amazon e-com store or something. You're like, okay, I want to pay this guy to do this thing, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but at least I tried, and it's experience, right? Yeah. So there's some things like that I would tell myself, like, be more conservative. And the biggest thing, and I wanted to finish on this note with this, is focus is key.
Yes.
I cannot overemphasize that. Like, we have learned that at ADPI. We had, the capital company, the insurance company, lending, realty company for, nationwide brokerage. We have 186 agents nationwide and stuff. And the education company is kind of the core. Yeah. And I have to say, what we focus on, and we just got an EOS implementer, so I'm like all on this right now. For those of you who don't know EOS, it's Entrepreneur Operating System, and it really gets you to focus in. We've hired VPs now since hiring the EOS implementer, and just taken, very decisive action on things that we were like, we'll do that in 2025. That'll be the plan. They're like, no, you're doing that this month because it's going to make you more focused. And we're like, oh, okay. So figuring out a way to focus on one thing until you can't make a mistake in that thing, then you can work on something else. It's really easy as an entrepreneur to get sidetracked, especially when you have multiple partners and you have multiple opportunities and you have community telling you, we need this, and you're trying all these things for your community, but it's really important to stay streamlined and focused. You'll do so much more if you can if you can do that.
Yeah, stay away from the shiny objects, right?
That's how we ended up with 5 companies.
Exactly. We're learning from that, though, Eric. We're learning from that. You know, Eric, something that we always ask our guests on the show. So what is your next? What are you looking to accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years?
Ending veteran homelessness is number one on the list. We are putting together a $250 million endowment fund, working with Veterans Community Project. We've donated several houses to Veterans Community Project. The veteran homelessness population has gone from 38,000 to 32,000 in the last 4 years. So we are making a huge dent in that. And this endowment fund will, so somebody just posted the other day, because the Powerball's at like $1.5 billion. What would you do with $1.5 billion? The first answer, I would put $250 million, before even paying taxes. I'd put $250 million down into an endowment fund, and that would end the veteran homelessness problem in the U.S. Immediately and permanently.
Wow.
The system's already in place. Veterans Community Project's building tiny home communities that are beautiful, permanent tiny homes, 260 to 320 square foot homes that house veterans. And everywhere that they go, the veteran homelessness crisis is solved. And so they have them in Longmont, Colorado, outside of Denver, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and St. Louis right now. Wow. And there's 3,000 cities on the wait list.
Wow.
So that's the most important thing for me. And we're working on that, and it's going to happen. So ending veteran homelessness this decade, anybody who's heard me speak before knows that that's something that I say very often, and it is on my vision board right there.
Love
and
it.
It's happening. We're watching it happen. So
we work with
Camp Hope
here in Houston, and they
awesome.
We've been very active with that organization, and it's similar, but they house them and help with the transition from military life to civilian, and it's cool because you get to spend some time with the guys while you're there and working. And a lot of times we just do yard work, but as a big group, and then we meals and stuff like that. But it's awesome to get involved. So
gotta get the service members out there doing the yard work, because we're real good at area beautification.
Yeah.
It's something that they task you with. Anybody who's military knows what I'm saying. If you're not doing something, you go out and you pick weeds.
Well, I love everything that you're doing. It's incredible to hear. And so we would love to, as an organization, our organization would love to get involved more with you and some of your project and help you with that. But we really appreciate the time today and you sharing. Absolutely. And how can listeners, maybe that are active veteran, how can they learn more about you? How can they participate with you, get involved? Where can they reach out?
I would love to get you a free copy of our book. Go to activedutypassiveincome.com. There's either a pop-up, or you can go to the resource page and just get a free copy of that and start there. You can find me at real Eric Upchurch on Instagram, or you can go to my website, ericupchurch.com also.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for joining us today. I can't wait for our listeners to listen to this show. You provided a ton of value here today, so thank you again.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Yeah. So we'll have all that in the show notes, so you can contact Eric and learn more about him and what he's doing. But other than that, we'll see you all next week.
See ya, everyone.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there talking. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolf'sDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.